Hello everyone, Reggie Tam here with another hand review from Sky Poker. We've got seven hands to look at today, five from this first video. If we get to around the half-hour stage, I'll probably save the other video for another video. I mean, I think half an hour is long enough for a video. We'll see how we're not going to rush through them, but we're not going to gloss over anything either. So we'll see how we get on. We got between definitely five, maybe seven hands. Please don't forget to like the video if you like this, what I'm doing. I'm getting some nice comments. It's really nice to see. Please keep hitting that thumbs up button, hitting the share it with your friends anywhere that you talk about poker with. And if you want to spend any time discussing poker with me, getting some help with your game, you'll find my website in the links below. It's got my rates on it and what have you. Please don't be afraid to get in touch. So we're going to start out here on table 1, and it's going to be with Jack 10. So we've already opened to 3x the blind. We end up getting 2 callers, and we flop an open end straight draw. And we get led into for 20 pence, and we should just treat these bets like checks. When you have a villain like donk into you for like a really small bet, like it was 20 or 40 here, I would treat it as a check, specifically just like the min bet, and then just respond how I would respond to a check. And I think in this situation with my open end and my backdoor spade draw, I think I would probably have bet, just say this pot was £1.90, I think I would probably have bet maybe 140, 120 into it. Wouldn't have gone as big as 160, so I think I'd like to see myself raise here to something in the region of like 122 to 140. If we get re-raised, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We'll treat it as if we've been check raised, and we'll go from there. But for now, I think the plan should be raise it opened, make it 120 to 140. I do go with the 140. We get called, and we get so the min donker folds, which is a bit strange, and this dude up here like check calls what in his eyes may well be a bet and a raise, even though effectively it's just a bet. So we turn the nuts, and now it's just a sizing thing. We'll see what our opponent does first. So he checks to us as we would expect. There's 456 in the pot. The effective stack is us £18. So now we're thinking, like, how do we manage to cram the rest of this money into this pot? How do we do it? How big do we need to bet to make sure that we can like jam the turn? And even if we pot it here, so we make it like £4.50, he's going to call. That's going to put like what, 13.80. We have to go pot to get the money in here. And do we get all the money in with the, of course we got the nuts. Well, what could he call like pot size bets with pot? So I don't think, I can't remember the hand. I remember that it went okay for us, but I can't remember the hand. But looking at it now, I don't like the idea of going pot, like pot turn jam river, because I think he's gonna have like a lot of draws and shit, and maybe just some like one pair stuff that can't call 2 bets. So I prefer to see myself go with it. Like, bet hope he raises would be the ideal scenario, but just like bet twice. Like I would see myself here, like usually maybe going with like a £3 bet on the turn. If he calls, maybe like a £6, £7 bet on the river. It's nice to try and get all the money in, but sometimes it's just like trying to set up the pot on the turn to get all the money on the river, because sometimes just put people off on the turn a little bit, I think. So I think I'd rather see myself just bet £3 here and accept that unless he does something crazy, we're not going to get his full stack, but we can still win like a pretty decent sized pot. So I'd like to see myself go anywhere between say £260 all the way up to maybe like £384 here, depending on what I thought of this opponent. I didn't know a lot about him, so yeah, £340, I wouldn't mind that. But anything like very high twos, £360. Yeah, I'm on board with that. I like it. Ooh, and that opponent puts a massive raise in. So now it's just obvious. Nothing else to say here. We just like jam our last £2, 1 pence over his bet. And yeah, that's the hand. And he had a set of queens. So he didn't raise pre, he didn't raise the flop, and then he gets it on the turn when he's when he's beat, which is not to know he's beat, of course. So I mean, I just think from his perspective, just 3-bet pre. You're out of position with 2 queens, just 3-bet them pre. It makes everything a lot simpler. It helps you get value easier. Yeah, when you go for these traps with like queens and kings and things and aces, sometimes it's almost always best to make sure that you're in position when you're not out of position, because you get to make sure like a bet goes in every street. I mean, he's done nothing wrong here, I guess, in a way. It's like he's got all his money in with the set when there's like whatever pocket kings and 10 jacks, the only hands that beat him. So from his point of view, he can feel a little bit unlucky here, but had he played his hand correctly in 3-bet pre, he wouldn't have lost all the money with it. And not playing results from his point of view. In position, I wouldn't have minded his slow play. I quite like slow playing some big pairs in position, just to make it more difficult for my opponents to just like auto c-bet versus me. Not routinely, but I'll often just call with 10s, jacks, sometimes queens, and against the right opponent who c-bet too much, I'll just flat most of my range. Like I'll flat some aces and kings sometimes too. So I don't hate the slow playing big pairs pre. I don't hate it at all, but I don't like it anywhere near as much in position as I do. Anywhere near as much out of position as I do in position. He should just 3-bet his hand pre, but nevertheless he didn't, and we went on to drag down the pot. And I think from my point of view, it's just like a sizing thing on the turn. It's as it happens, he had 2 queens, so it wouldn't have mattered what size we bet, we were going to get all the money. But I think on the turn, the decision was, do we go pot and try and like cram a massive stack in and just hope he's at the top of his range and can call it off, or do we go for more like normal size bets and just try and get 2 nice value bets paid off? And that was going to be my strategy there, and I think that would have worked well against stuff like ace queen, king queen, any like king x floats. You had like king jacks, king 10s, things like that. So yeah, I like my size on the turn. I think I made the right decision to just not go for the pot thing. And yeah, that was the hand. So this hand starts on this second table here. We've already missed some of the action because I was having some issues with my screen capture. I had 4 tables. I thought I had a scene set up for 4 tables. I didn't, so I was doing some quick manoeuvring to try and get this hand in because it was maybe going to be interesting. So sorry, it looks a bit shit, but whatever. So we've got this polarizing, who's a fish. He plays multiple tables, but he's just a fish. We got Mad Hornet, who's certifiable. He's just a complete fucking nut job. And we have ace king in position on both of them. I think we have a mandatory squeeze here. We elected to squeeze to £4.20, which is 14 blinds, which I think is fine. We could go a little bigger, given that this Mad Hornet just isn't that likely to fold. So I would have had no objections if I'd have seen myself go up to 480, even £5, something like that. But 420 is completely fine. No issue with sizing. Although I'm just saying we could have gone bigger. I would never really go smaller, but we certainly could have gone bigger against these 2 particular opponents, and I wouldn't have had much of a problem with it. So we end up getting called in 2 spots, and it's kind of good news, bad news. We've flopped 2 overcards and a second nut flush draw, but at the same time we're up against 2 players who are super unlikely to fold any kind of made hand here. If anyone's in here with like a pocket 9s, with or without a club, pocket 6s with or without a club, maybe they fold them. If they've got a club, well, they're not going to fold it, but we don't want them to fold that, I guess. But ultimately, I just sat to myself thinking, am I going to get a better hand to fold here? And am I going to, like, is there that much point trying to like deny equity to like worse hands? If someone's in here with like a queen jack, for example, is it worth trying to deny equity to those hands? Is it worth betting like £4 or £5 here to fold out unpaired hands that don't have a club? And I elected that. I just thought, no, it's not really. We're going to get check called way too often by hands that are ahead of us. Sometimes we're going to get check raised and be put in a weird spot. So I elected just to check back, if I recall correctly. If I had the ace of clubs, maybe I would have been more inclined to c-bet, but that's kind of a bit of a moot point. But yeah, I just didn't think we get better hands to fold. I think Mad Hornet can have lots of pairs here, either pocket pairs or just pairs that have like hit this board somehow. Polarized, I think he's going to be like maybe like, I don't know, some higher pairs too, like pocket jacks, pocket tens, and then some like maybe ace queen and stuff like that possibly. I think he's going to have the stronger range of the two by a long ways. Polarizing. Mad Hornet, fuck knows. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't even like to hazard a guess what Mad Hornet's range looks like. He checks to us and we check back. We turn pretty much gin, which is happy news for us. And now we have Mad Hornet leading out for £5, 10p. What was his stack size? We're £20 behind. So we've got the options of call and raise here. I mean, obviously, this fold button, it doesn't exist. So it's call or raise. And I don't think there's any value in raising whatsoever. If we raise here, we're effectively saying that we have the ace of clubs, and it's not hard for us to have the ace of clubs, and it's really difficult for us to get value from anything. I mean, if he has like the queen or the jack of clubs, maybe he just says fuck it. Maybe Mad Hornet's mad enough to just say fuck it, I'm all in. But he's going to do that on the river anyway, so who cares, you know? If he does have the queen or jack of clubs and he's not going to fold it to like a jam here, then maybe we just call and let him just bet the river too and look like we don't have the nuts or close to the nuts. So I think it's just like a really, really easy call here. And then that happens. And in my opinion, this is the ace of clubs close to 100% of the time. I don't think there's any chance it's an airball. I don't think there's 0% chance he's bluffing here against two opponents. He's seen it be a 3-bet pot, he's seen a bet and a call on the turn on this board, and he's jamming. It was really frustrating, but for me this was like one of the most trivial folds I'll ever make him, or ever have to make in my life. Yes, we have the second nuts, but if this dude doesn't have the ace of clubs, this dude certainly does. I just don't see him doing this with like a worse club, and why would he? There's just no reason to. All his worst clubs are bluff catchers. If he's got a set or something, then why would he? It's just the ace of clubs, isn't it? There's just nothing else to say about it. He should absolutely have just, in my opinion, checked call with his nut flush and checked the river and allowed him to like continue bluffing, or allowed me to make a thin value bet on the river before setting his trap. He's kind of, in my opinion, it's like he had his first shag with a lady and he's like trying his best to hold on, and the minute his helmet just protrudes into the love canal, he's fucking absolutely shot his beans all over the place. He just didn't have the discipline to slow play his hand, in my opinion. And, I think we just have to make the fold here. And just avoid his jizz fest, basically. Obviously, you can see him a bit like, whatever, but it doesn't take me too long to just like fold the second nuts here. Well, whatever. It's not the second nuts, is it? I guess there's some straight flushes out there, but you know what I mean. And it's an irritating spot because you make the second nuts against two fish, but when you get check jammed on the turn, I'm afraid in Reggie land the ace king just needs to go in the bin. So in this next hand we have a king jack offsuit on table 1. Iceman KP's in the hand. He's borderline blue tag. He's been blue tag in the past, that's currently green. Every chance he might get downgraded to blue again at some point, because he's a very loose player. It's kind of weird because he's like very loose pre, lots of shitty little min raises and stuff, but then post flop he's kind of like, he's like snap checks back a lot and what have you. So he likes to play a lot of hands. He comes in for a raise quite a lot, but then post flop he just like seems pretty passive. He's like either dead passive, giving up, or is shoveling chips around. So my guess is that he just gives up with all his shit and overplays some of his stronger hands possibly, or overvalues them, not overplays them, possibly overvalues them. That's the read I've got. If it's accurate or not, I'm not sure, but that's the read we're working with until we find out otherwise. We could 3-bet here, but I think Collins completely fine too. He's not going to fold many hands to a 3-bet. He's just not that sort of player, and then we're going to be left with a weird SPR King Jack that's going to miss a lot against someone who doesn't fold a lot, etc. So I think the call's fine. He hadn't been potting it very often, to be fair. He'd just been like min opening, so pot was different. Not sure what the difference between his pot and his min open is. I'm going to presume pot is the stronger part of his range. His min opening is so many hands that when he doesn't, I'm going to presume that he's going to be like higher up in his range of pre-flop hands. Well, who knows what pot is to him. In Queen 10 suited might be a pot to him. Jack 9 suited might be a pot to him. I don't think so. I think I'm going to guess his strongest hands are potting it, but we don't know for sure. Anyways, we flop top 2 pair and we're all ready to go for a check raise, I presume. I don't know, but I think we're going to check raise. We don't check raise because he checks back. And now for me, this is just like 2 big bets. I'm presuming something interesting is going to happen because why else would we be looking at this? But for me now, this is just like bet 140, bet river, pretty big, crack on. Let's see what we do. Oh, that's too small. Right, I don't like that bet size. There's like lots of worse hands he can have here that want to call. Who knows if he ever checks back booking like ace king, aces, pocket queens maybe would make some sense that he might want to check back. Yeah, I think that's too small. I think we just need to bet bigger there and just hope he has something he can call with. He just calls. River's a 5. Should go big here. Again, I don't think that's big enough. I'd much rather see myself go to what was in the pot. Let's rewind it back just a little bit. What was in the pot? 294 was in the pot. I'd much rather see myself go up to like 240 or something here. I think 180 is too small against this type of player. We just need to go bigger. And then he pretty much jams. Doesn't quite go all in, but he raises. And this is now like a pretty weird spot because he didn't do this, in my opinion, with a bluff. He doesn't get to this river and do this with bluffs very often. We have the Jack of Clubs, which is kind of, I know someone said in the hand like that, blockers don't matter as much on Sky, but they mean something, you know. It means it's like less flush draws he can have on the turn that he's now turning into a bluff. Because the Jack of Clubs would be up there like Queen Jack of Clubs, Ace Jack of Clubs, stuff like that. King Jack of Clubs, all these things that, I mean, not King Jack of Clubs is a made hand. But yeah, well, effectively what I'm saying is I don't think he has like very many bluffs here at all. Now my issue is, could he be overvaluing Ace King? Could he have checked Ace King on the flop thinking it's a nuts and now be thinking Ace King's a nuts on the river? Because I don't think this is a bluff. Equally, could he have flopped 3 kings and be slow playing them now? I think this is always value anyway. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, what's his value range look like? Pocket 10s would be definitely his value range. Pocket Jacks, Pocket Kings, Ace Queen. I doubt Pocket 5s or Pocket 3s. I don't think he plays them this way. And then what bluffs can he have? Well, us having the Jack of Clubs removes some of his bluffs. Remember, he potted it pre-flop, and we think his pot size bet pre-flop means like bigger pairs and bigger cards. And in the end, I've just been in this spot so many times, not just on Sky, on all sites. When we get raised on the river and we don't have the nuts, and much less relevantly, if we just get raised and we don't have the nuts, we should strongly consider folding most of the time. But when we also hold a card that like blocks some of the missed draws your opponent can hold, I just think it's a fold. It's an unhappy fold. Like the Ace King was an easy fold earlier, the King High flush. This was like an unhappy fold, but we've been raised on the river by a player who we believe to be passive post flop. Yeah, we get it, he plays lots of hands pre-flop, but he's been incredibly fit all fold. He's been snap checking back, he's been snap folding to bets. So this time we've had a guy who hasn't snap folded to bets, who hasn't snap checked back, and who's raised the river. And I didn't like it, I really didn't. But again, in the end, I just elected to fold. I think like this is one of like the biggest leaks that most micro-stakes players have is they just refuse to believe with their like upper parts of their range. You know, they just pay off way too often. If he'd min raised or like 3x or something, then we'd probably have to call. But he's bombed it right up to like 4 times our bet. You know, we need him to be bluffing there. Who knows how many times, like 30% of the time or more. And I just don't think he is. It's just sad. It's sad to have to make 2 pair against a fish and fold it on the river. But I think it's a better play than just saying fuck you and calling down against an opponent who we don't believe to be aggressive post flop. So yeah, let me know what you think about that one. So moving on to this hand now, I'm presuming it's the aces on middle table, and just taking a note on the hornet as we go along. I think I just literally the hand before or a couple of hands before or whatever, seen him bluffing against somebody. Clearly can't have been us because we got fuck all in our stacks, so we still got starting stack. But I've obviously seen him like attacking weakness. Not sure that's going to be relevant in this hand or not, but he 4x's blind versus blind. Off this stack size, if we're 100 blinds deep, I'd want to see me go to at least 420 here, maybe 450. Just because I don't think he's folding, so why not just make the pot bigger and bigger? But off the like £20 stack size, I think we can downsize a little and go to anything like 330 to 390. I think it's going to be fine. Anything smaller than that, I think it's going to be too small. As I said, I don't expect the guy to fold. We do go on the higher side to 390. I like that. I think 420 would have been okay too. At hornet calls, we obviously get a fine flop. So now again, it's a sizing issue. He's got 17.92 left, so £18 in his stack, there's £7 in the pot. So we're obviously going to have no problem getting all the money, and if this goes like bet call, it's just a sizing issue now, isn't it? It's like, do we want to get it on 2 streets or do we want to get it on 3 streets? If you want to get it on 3 streets, you can just go like £2.50 on the flop. Who knows, hope to induce like a raise. If you want to get it on 2 streets, you just go like £4 on the flop and then jam the turn. Because then if you bet 4 on the flop, he calls. That's going to put like 15 something in the pot. He's going to have 13 left in his stack, so we can just go 4 and jam, or maybe like 250, £4.80 jam. Either's fine. Interested to see which one I go with. Again, against this opponent on this board, I'd rather go for it on 2 streets. And yeah, anything upwards of £4 would I like. What do we go with? We go with £4. He calls. Not the greatest of turns. It kind of makes it harder to get value. That's all really. I mean, if he's got 10-8 or he's got a flush or whatever, then fuck our lives. But now it's just going to be a matter of like, we know he's got £13 left in his stack. Now how do we do it? We can't go with the jam anymore, I don't think. I think we just need to go with like a smaller size. He's got 13 left. I mean, I guess we could still go with a jam and just say fuck it. It's just harder to get a jam called now that the 6 has come off, specifically the heart. So it's kind of awkward in terms of sizing. What do I think we should bet? You know what? I think we set up for a jam. I think we still need to go with a jam, actually. I think betting any smaller just doesn't make sense. So yeah, he checks. We should go for the jam. He jams into us. Well, insta calling, isn't it? Should, I mean, if he's got a flush, again, all the same things apply if we're going to bet. If he's got a flush or he's got 10-8 or he's got 2 pairs or whatever, if he's got us beat, fuck our lives, tough fuck for us. It's one of those situations where we just need to call and we need to do it quite quickly. And we do. And he had the Jack 9 and we dragged a nice pot down. And it appears that I didn't pause the video, so you've seen me searching through. So you're going to see which hand it's going to be. I'm a fucking muppet. I do apologise. It's going to be this hand here. We have the Jack Queen. I thought I'd pause the video. Didn't. Never mind. Not going to be asked editing it out because I can't be fucking asked. So we open 3x on the button with Jack Queen off. Completely standard. 2 fish in the blinds. We flop trip queens. And it checks to us. And there's 170 in the pot. We basically have the board locked up. So it's like how to play our hand. I think there's just a mandatory small c-bet on the flop. Chips O'Toole can be aggressive. This guy's just a bit passive. We talked about him earlier. I expect him to fold a lot versus all bet sizings here. Chips O'Toole's aggressive, so I mean he might sometimes spew. He certainly wouldn't fold a king. I wouldn't even expect him a bet small to fold any kind of pair if he's got any gut shots. So a bet small, get value from all his entire range, hopefully induce some spew. That's kind of the thought process here. So we do go ahead and bet 60. And when Chips makes a call, we get the total brick on the turn. And again, just continuing with our thought process, in my opinion, we should be going relatively small again here, like pound 20, something like that. Again, the line here is designed to induce either incredibly light calls from Chips or just get him to be aggressive, because he's fucking mad aggressive. He 3-bets random hands. He just tries to take people off pots. I just wanted to give him a chance to do something fucking ridiculous or just spew some money away. So if I go more than 140 here, I'd be very surprised, because my strategy against Chipsy on these types of boards is always going to be just bet small, hope something happens. Bet small, hope something happens. Not against all players, of course. Against calling stations, I'd be betting really big here to try and extract value from King X. If Iceman KP had called and Chips had folded, then I would be going much bigger here, because I'd be hoping Iceman KP had all loads of King X, so it just would check call 3 streets. So this is where I play differently against different opponents, and maybe it's not something that you guys who play speed poker or what have you do as often, because you're up against the same types of opponents, so you see the same types of lines against most people. On Sky, a lot of the fun is figuring out how do I best exploit this player, and for me against Chips it's small bets, let him spew, and against people like Iceman it's big bets, let them call off with top pair. So I like to try and get in the heads of my opponents and figure out what they're doing, and then try and figure out ways to exploit that as best I can. So we do go with the very small bet, which I really like. Chips goes into the tank. And then raises. And given that we've taken a line that we want to have lots of bluffs in Chips' range here, I think if I do anything other than call, I think I'm a fucking idiot, because I've got what I wanted. I've got Chips to maybe, who knows, but maybe turn a hand into a bluff, and there's no reason to do anything other than call to allow him to keep all those bluffs in. Raising now would just be lunacy, in my opinion. We're hoping our opponent's bluffing, so what's the point in raising versus him? We call, we get a perfect river. We're going to just jam over Chips' bet, I guess. Don't remember that. Do not remember Chip betting 20 pence. Right, so what do I want to do here? I think Chip's got fuck all, by the way. This is my read here now. It was my read at the time, probably. It's my read now. Chip's got fuck all. So I don't think making a large bet here is going to do us any good, because I don't think Chip's calling. So I actually think I like a really small raise here, just to give him one last opportunity to screw up. So I think I'd love to see him as a raise to 1/3 pot. We're going to imagine this bet doesn't exist. There's going to be £12 in the pot. Anything between 360 to 420, I think I'd like to see myself raise to. Just to give Chip one last chance to put some more money in the pot. as a bluff or what have you. Oh, I'll go even smaller. And I don't dislike it because it does give Chip the chance now to just ship it. You know, it's like leaves him £10 behind to ship over me. And Chip's good. I'm not saying he will, but he could easily just like set off with ace 10 here again and go, oh, fuck you, and I was betting small again, etc. Who knows what goes through these crazy guys' minds. This was designed specifically to induce a jam from Chip. And we didn't get the jam, but never mind. Right, so now my question is, do we do the other 2 hands from video 2? And we've gone 30 minutes now. Yeah, fuck it, let's do 2 more. So these 2 hands were taken from my session last night. Tables weren't that great. That's why we got a tournament mixed in there, just to give us some extra buttons to click, I guess. We've got like Big Hawk was at pretty much every table. Ronnie was at pretty much every table. This poker vegan, I didn't know him. Leon's someone who I've done some work with in the past and maybe will in the future. So this table 1 is not a great table. We'll probably should be leaving it anytime soon. Whatever. It wasn't like one of the most interesting of sessions. We played for like however long, an hour and a half, and we've only got 2 hands to review from it. And that's what you're going to get when you get these like boring tables with, and no offense to any of these guys because they're just doing the job, trying to make some money too. When you get these boring tables that have 2, 3, 4 regulars on, you're going to find less interesting spots because you just simply need to play tighter in all situations because the ranges are much better. But anyway, yeah, there we are. We elect to defend King Queen here. We could 3-bet, but versus a fish who 4x'd, I think our fold equity is significantly reduced. So, you know, we could either elect to 3-bet pre-flop and just look to get it in on any time we flop a pair, or like any like 10 jack or gut shots or anything that we get, maybe just bet them, or we can just call it to keep the pot small and hope our post swap advantage, skill advantage is going to like do something to mitigate our positional disadvantage. So we went with the latter and we went with the call. We flopped top pair, which is pretty sweet. And this guy had been doing a lot of limping, might I add. He hadn't been doing like a great deal of like betting and raising. Sorry, raising and then betting post swap and stuff. We have like in my opinion, a really easy check call here. No reason to raise really at this point, just check call. Let's see your turn. Probably just check call again if he checks back. Yeah, I guess this is like a good opportunity to talk about forward planning in a hand. My plan here is like check call flop, check call turn, check call river. Ideally, that'd be like what we're wanting to do. And then if he doesn't bet the turn after we check call, we just bet river bricks ourselves. This is my plan here: check call flop, check call turn, check river. And if we get to the turn and he doesn't bet, and then there's going to be whatever there's going to be in the pot, 85 plus that's going to be like 331 in the pot. Just bet like 170 on the river and get paid by like Jack X or whatever. So that's how our plan hands out. I'm already thinking now, right, what's my plan? That turn's going to be a check call, river's going to be a check if he bets a turn, and river's going to be a bet if he checks the turn. So that's how we're thinking about that here. So we have like a super easy check here again, and this time he like goes for like a full pot size bet, and this was like he wasn't doing this, he hadn't been doing this, so now that I have to assume he's going to be going for it all on the river. He's got £8.6 left. There's going to be like a pot size bet left on the river. So this is a question I'll also ask myself, and this is why I'll make some more nitty folds than my opponents. And I think it's because of like I think a forward plan a lot better than players who don't win at the game. You like just call here again because they're just like, well, I have top pair, good kicker, we need to call, without asking themselves like, well, what are we going to do on the river? What I'm asking myself here is my hand now worth £10.61? Because I expect that's how much is going to go in between now and the river. Do I want to pay £10.61 to defend my king queen, bearing in mind that the river could come a 9, which would hurt, a 10, which would hurt, an ace, which would hurt. There's just like, you know, Do I want to risk those cards coming off when I've got to fold anyway? Do I want to check call? If the river comes a fucking deuce of diamonds, do I want to check call a pot size bet on the river? And do I really want to be putting in total like £13 or 65, 70 big blinds in with just one pair? And the answer to that for me is just no. If this player was a guy who was like being super aggressive all the time, then yeah, I would just go check call, check call, check call, and just fucking whatever, get on with it. If this was against Chips or Tool, I'd have no issue whatsoever check calling down, including like a river all in. And many other opponents that have no problem check calling down. But this guy wasn't one of those guys. This guy was one of the passive guys. He'd been limping a lot. All of a sudden he's 4x'd it, he's C-bet, and he's potted the turn. Guys who limp a lot, who all of a sudden 4x it, C-bet, and pot turns, they're not bluffing. You know, it's a newsflash. Unless something's happened to make him decide to bluff and tilt him, which it hadn't happened at the table. So unless, I don't know, he's having a fucking row with his wife or something, unless something's happened to change his state of mind that I'm not aware of, I've no reason to think he's bluffing here. If he's not bluffing, we beat fuck all, basically. So, you know, I think I made a fold anyway. Don't like it. Reggie. That's a fucking horrible call. Because now look, he's got exactly a pot-sized bet left. Yeah, I don't like it. I think, in hindsight, I should have folded the turn. And then, maybe this is the leak of mine, that when we're at like slightly worse tables, for some reason I play like, you know, I'm like, when I'm getting less opportunities to make money, should we say, because it's like maybe at this table, for example, this poker vegan, I don't know anything about him, but I don't think he was bad. Two good players. We've got Leon, who I haven't got Matt because he's recently just come. I know a bit about Leon's game from old, but I'm not sure what it is about new, but I know he's certainly not a fish. So maybe I just, like, when I finally make a hand in these like tighter tables, maybe I get a bit sticky with them. I don't fucking know. If I check call this river, I'm going to be furious, because there's nothing we beat. I'd have been delighted if I'd just folded the turn there. Absolutely delighted. We've given our reasons why we should have folded, in my opinion, and then I didn't deliver it. I'm a dick. Please fold the river, Reggie. Please fold the river, Reggie. The all-in's coming, is it? Maybe not. Yeah, the all-in's coming. And we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming on the turn when he potted it. I just burnt 250 here because I've got a pretty decent river here in terms of like all the range of cards that could have come. The 6 of diamonds is a pretty good one, and I still can't call. So that just goes to show what a fucking cunt of a turn, my cunt of a call on my turn. Whatever. I fucked the turn up. That's what I'm saying, effectively. I don't like it. You guys might be thinking, wow, what's he doing folding here? You might not agree with anything I've just said. But yeah, for me, the fold should have been made on the turn, and it should absolutely be made now on the river. And if we're getting bluffed, then we're getting bluffed. But paying passive guys off who 4x, C-bet, pot turn, jam river, paying passive guys off who do that with top pair is going to be a quick route to the poor house, in my opinion. And we do finally find the fold one street too late, but yeah, better late than never, I guess. So the last hand of the video is going to be this ace, queen, diamond, diamond, I think. We raise, we get called by Bonesy, we flop the nizzles, and he min bets into us again. As we talked about earlier, we're going to treat this as a check. We've got trips on like a very dry board. You can see it's always a dry board when you have chips on, nearly always a dry board when you have trips, unless it's like trip 7s on a 7, 7, 8, 2 suit or something, or monotone. So yeah, we should raise here, but raise small. Let's just see what sort of raise. It's like 80 or something like that. And we do make it 80. He calls, turn to club, which is a bit of a bastard, but we should. Now he bets 150. Right, so what do we like here? I don't like raise very much because he's upsized now. He's gone from like bet call flop to like bet a slightly bigger size on the turn. And now betting over half pot after min betting. Let's have a look what the effective stack is. he's got £12 left. So we either go for a very large raise here to like £7, £6, £7 and just like sigh and call, or we can just call, keep all his worst aces in and just like call the river too. And what do I like? I don't think I like raise too much. He's going to like call with all his ace-x. I get that. But maybe he doesn't have ace-x. Maybe he just has some bluffs too sometimes. Maybe he sometimes just has fucking 7x, as he said, that do something fancy with. Who knows? But overall, I think I like call and then just call river. 2. Let me get that river. And at this point, it's just like, do we try and get some very thin value from like ace jack without a club, ace 10 without a club, all those things? Do you think could be reasonable here? Just like betting 150, something like that, 150 to £2, just targeting all his ace-x that doesn't have a club. It's like, do I like that better than checking back? Yeah, I think we should bet here. But I think we should bet really small. I mean, he's going to have a club some of the time. We're going to own ourselves. But if you're not owning yourself with your value bets sometimes, and by that I mean if you're not sometimes value betting and getting called by worse, then you may getting called by some slightly better hands, then you're maybe not value betting thinly enough. From memory, I checked this back and I don't like it. I think we should just bet here and bet like 150, 180, something like that. And just get some crying calls from just his bluff catchers, basically. Do we let to check back? And we win. He couldn't have called with that. I have no idea what the fuck he was doing betting the turn. Like bet calling the flop, more to the point. His bet calling the flop is worse than his turn lead. Yeah. He played the hand rubbish, to be frank. I don't think we played it a lot better. I think we probably marked the hand because of missed value on the river. I think we should definitely bet something there. Because he just doesn't have a big flush. If he has a flush, then it's going to be a medium-sized one, I guess. But most of the time, he's just not going to have, a flush. And he's going to have some weak ace-x. I mean, I guess you could argue that like we're losing to all his full houses, so there is aces, so we get a value from like ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4. Yeah, there's still loads of worse aces at a club. I think we should definitely bet there. I think he made a weak check back. But there you go. That's the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Be back with another one. I'm not sure when. I'm recording most of my sessions now, not all of them. If I start off just one tabling, I tend not to. If we get up to speed, then I'll record a little bit. But hopefully we're back. What is it now? Thursday? Probably Monday with one, maybe. I don't know. A few days anyway. But have a great weekend, everybody. Be lucky. Take care, and bye-bye for now.